Since the 1960s, the Consumers Union of the Philippines has been and still is the country's most vocal and stalwart advocate of consumerism that promotes and protects the rights and welfare of the Filipino consumer.
Taking care of the customer.
Because we are all consumers.
That the Filipino consumer gets the full value.
Government cannot do the job alone.
That's why unity and involvement in consumerism is our slogan.
The undeniable fact is that we are all consumers from the moment of birth up to the moment when we are laid to rest. It is not hard to imagine, therefore, that consumerism is part of a large social movement which aims to protect cultural values, the environment, and quality of life. There is a pressing need to take consumerism from a consciousness stage to a proactive stage that is not swayed by power or influence. We can do something, and the time to do it is now. As young blood is infused into its ranks, the Consumers Union of the Philippines, under the guidance of and with much respect to the more senior and active supporters of the union, has to be bolder and stronger amidst the grueling issues of today. The daily increase in prices of prime commodities, the effects of the train law, technology, and privacy issues, the increasing number of fraudulent transactions, and schemes that affect a large number of consumers are just some of the issues that we will need to tackle to ensure a better life for the present and future generations. It is our aim to provide you with a forum where we can discuss affirmative action to challenge business to live up to its full potential as a provider who is sensitive to social consequences and, in the process, create an equilibrium between all parties concerned.
I know we still have a lot to do in order to have a strong consumer movement in the country. But we have the duty and responsibility to help educate and participate in effecting reforms and changes that would benefit all of us and this whole country.
Ito ang inyong Consumers Desk, ang pinalakas na boses ng consumer.
So welcome to the Consumers Desk, ang pinalakas na boses ng consumer. So this is a regular discussion of the Consumers Union of the Philippines where we discuss different issues of concern involving the consumers. And for all we know, we are all consumers and we advocate for the protection and welfare of the consumer. So from the different issues that are affecting the consumers, we are of course wanting to have always that quality of goods and services that we avail of. But before we introduce our panel today, we introduce the topic. We have a video presentation prepared for all of you. Let's watch this.
Exactly what will happen to Metro Manila if a 7.2 quake strikes?
A total chaos.
Hindi raw tayo dapat magpakakampante, lalo pat dapat daw nating paghandaan ang magnitude 7.2 na posibleng tumama raw dito mismo sa Metro Manila.
Billions in terms of population and also building and housing density is at risk, and what happens in Metro Manila will also affect the whole Philippines. And in fact, if you look at the whole Metro Manila alone, around 34,000 deaths. And if we want to rebuild houses and buildings, we need 2.3 trillion pesos, and that excludes infrastructure damages.
Concerns have been raised about the Filipinos' readiness for the big one. This on the heels of a series of earthquakes that rocked Taiwan, toppling structures as rescue efforts are hampered by its aftershocks. Coupled with this are questions from structural engineers pertaining to the standards by which our buildings are built, particularly with regards to the quality of the steel that is being used in the construction of some of our middle and high-rise buildings, condominiums, hospitals, and government offices. Atop all these is the current build stance that the government wishes to take in its infrastructure projects. For the consumer, aside from being ready for the big one, in terms of investment, does the risk watching his hard-earned money go down the drain? But how do we really elevate this matter of safety and preparedness to the discourse about structural features and sound investments? We might begin by discussing the quality and standards by which these buildings and structures are to comply with to ensure the safety of its end users, who is tasked to monitor these standards. The quality of steel, for example. Can we ensure that we are serving our public by talking about these issues? We believe so. This is a legitimate issue of prevention and preparedness. We do not intend to cause harm or panic. We just want our countrymen to be informed and educated. So, let us be consumers. Welcome to Consumer's Desk.
Okay, again, we welcome you to the Consumer's Desk, and we are joined by the members of the panel today, and who actually share their time for all of us to discuss these issues. I'll start on my right, probably. We have from the Association of Structural Engineers of the Philippines, Engineer Danilo Domingo. Sir, you have a microphone.
By the way, again, good morning to everybody. Right now, I'm the current president of the Association of Structural Engineers of the Philippines, ASEP. ASEP is a group of specialist civil engineers. Lahat kami actually are licensed civil engineers specializing in the design of buildings, structural design of buildings. Iba po yung architect, iba po yung trabaho ng structural engineer. The architect is more concerned about the aesthetic, the plan layout of the building, while the structural engineers are more interested with the tibay ng building. Yung laki ng poste, laki ng beams, mga bakal sa loob. So that's our main job, to make sure that the buildings are all safe. And we collaborate with the architect. Now, just a short background there. Our group is a non-profit organization. Okay, our members are, I've said, structural engineer. We are designers, practitioners in the field of structural engineering. So almost all of us have their own consulting firm. We also have members of the academy, professors from the big universities all around the Philippines. Okay? In terms of membership, we are about 800 to 1,000 structural engineers members around the Philippines. Okay? We have influence in other countries. We have active members in the Middle East, Singapore, and Dubai, Qatar. We have a group of Filipino engineers there, very active. It's a goal. Now, we develop code. We developed the National Structural Code of the Philippines, and by the way, my colleague here, Engineer Emilio Morales, is the overall chair of the National Structural Code of the Philippines. Yun yung preemptive strike ng ASEP. Kung baga sa wala pang problema yung buildings if the buildings are properly designed and in accordance with that code, dapat sana walang problema. It should withstand the basic extreme force coming from earthquake, typhoons, So, yung anticipation namin. Then, doon naman sa post-disaster, right now, ASEP is organizing our own, what we call damper. That is a disaster mitigation preparedness, So, we're doing this around the country, So, limbawa, nung doon sa Ormoc last year, we mobilize our own team there in coordination with DPWH. And to assist the LGU, the DPWH, dun sa mga buildings. Kasi pagkalubindol, ang problema yun ng mga tao, alin pwedeng gamitin muna, alin dapat ang hindi gamitin. Okay, may mga building na may mga karakla, kung hindi ka insert, kala mo, delikado na siya. Meron namang delikado talaga, baka matirahan pa. So, there are several other words, we conduct seminars and trainings around the Philippines. And even in the Middle East, last year we had a training in Singapore, and this year we had a training in Qatar. So So, ganun yung asset. Uno sa Pilipinas lang, but right now we have several active members around Asia, no? Around Asia and the Middle East.
They can probably visit your website. Do you have a website, sir?
Yeah, our website is assetonline.org, no? Okay. And later on, my colleague Engineer Emilio Morales, who is an advocacy of his research on the quenched tempered liba, will present a very short laymanized presentation on the importance of this material. Sabi na kayo ni Mr. Rod, no? Ang concrete, no? In general, is made up of cement and kapartner na isang bakal. Magkasing tibay dapat sila, no? To make sure that they perform very well. And take note, most of the buildings in the Philippines or Manila are concrete.
We'll go into that.
Okay.
Yeah, no? Sige.
So for now,
all right. Thank you very much. And by the way, we are live at lightscameramanila.asia. Okay. So hi sa mga nanonood sa atin. And on my right is Asek Nes Perez of the Department of Trade and Industry. He is in charge of the Consumer Protection Group. Good morning, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm the Assistant Secretary of the Consumer Protection Group, but the supervising Undersecretary is the newly appointed Undersecretary of the Consumer Protection Group starting January 1, 2018, is Attorney Ruth Castello. The Consumer Protection Group, under it are three bureaus: the Bureau of Philippine Standards, the Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau, and the Consumer Protection and Advocacy Bureau. DTI is a government agency that with the primary role of not only enabling business but also empowering consumers. We are on the empowering consumer side of DTI. Particularly, I was the Bureau of Philippine Standards, of which I was the officer in charge from April 7, 2017 up to January 1, 2018. The Bureau of Philippine Standards is the national standards body of the Philippines. It is the organization, the bureau that represents the country in the World Trade Organization, in the International Standardization Organization, and the International Electrotechnical Organization. Meaning to say that BPS is the one that ensures the public, particularly the consumers, that all products, particularly construction materials like cement and steel, before they are allowed for distribution to the country, that they must pass the necessary tests so that they are compliant with the Philippine national standards that are aligned with international standards. This will assure the people, the public, that whatever steel or cement or construction materials used in the country comply with Philippine standards. Now, if there are issues or concerns, this is first addressed with the Bureau of Philippine Standards, where we create, in the process, we have a technical working group. Supposing there is a concern or issue that is being raised, before this issue is, so that this issue must be properly addressed, we form a technical working group that studies the issues, and it recommends. And before it makes any decision, it subjects itself to a proper consultation process. We know and we must anticipate that the issues being raised that will be taken up in details later on are issues that really should be of concern. But we should not also be it will cause alarm or panic among the people, and to allay the fears of the people that your government will be doing something about it, assuming, but of course, subject to the proper testing requirements. So that's all for now. So later on, maybe we can explain. We have with me the technical staff from the Bureau of Philippine Standards. May introduce tests, the engineer test there, and then engineer here, and my executive assistant Jeff. Thank you very much for inviting us here, and we do hope that at the end of the session, we will be able to explain ourselves and do something or contribute something into enlightening our people that whatever concern or issue is to be raised now, this will be properly addressed. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much, sir. And we are very thankful of your presence this morning because we know that we can be partners. All of us can be partners with the government for the change that we wanted to effect in this country. And on my left is an honorable from Davao del Norte, Davao Oriental. We have a member of the House of Representatives, Congresswoman Cora Malanyao. Good morning, ma'am.
Actually, anything that relates to public safety is of course of interest to me, just like to everyone else. But I'm here upon the invitation of Senator Cosete, who gives me a lot of idea on perhaps that I should be aware of the dire implications of the use of substandard rebars or steel products, no? So I'm just here to be educated actually. So I would like to know actually kung talaga bang mayroong mga ganyan pa. So I'm wondering how it passed that test, no? Considering that for every development, especially on high-rise structures, the developer is always required to submit some kind of certification from structural engineers. So I said, mayroon pa ba talaga yan? Mayroon pa ba talagang, with all these buildings that we're seeing around, how come that there are still substandard steel bars? But of course, it's a reality after seeing the devastation in the earthquake hit countries. So I think there's really a reason for us to be alarmed, and I think it's everybody's advocacy to really be involved here so that we would also be able to really influence the government, especially with respect to policies affecting manufacturing of steel bars or steel products. Thank you. So, katulad lang ninyo, di ba? Gusto ko lang malaman. Okay.
Ito po yung purpose natin why we are here. We wanted to be educated and be informed of all the many issues that transpires in our environment, and this topic for the day is just one of them. And sabi nga natin kanina, we are all consumers, diba? So we are being involved. And also we have with us sabi kanina ng engineer, we have a researcher and a member of the Association of Structural Engineers of the Philippines. We have Engineer Emilio Morales. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Tony. Of course, we would like to thank the Consumers Union of the Philippines for inviting us to present something that is of real critical importance, not only to the structural engineering profession, but for the general public. It is something that has a bearing on the safety of our buildings, okay, and also the safety of its occupants, which I shall present to you in a PowerPoint presentation. But what is really very important is, of course, we do not want to create hysteria or panic, but rather we would like to alert you on something that really requires the attention not only of the engineering profession, not only of the government agencies involved, but also the consuming public. Because after all, you would be the most affected when something wrong happens to your buildings or to the buildings that you occupy. As stated previously, I'm the chairman of the National Structural Code Committee, and we have released the NSCP 2015 edition, which, among other things, embodies qualifications on the use of a certain type of rebar, which need to be heeded or need to be understood not only by engineers but also by the consumer or the developer. So we again thank everybody here for being present, and as well as the distinguished guests that we have. But also let me add to this, no? we have seen an increase in the momentum during when rather ASEC Perez now sits or chairs the Consumer Protection Group, because I'm also a member of the Technical Committee 11, which is concerned with the rebar products, and there has been a stalemate before, but now we can see the light at the end of the tunnel with the interest that has been demonstrated by ASEC Perez. So thank you, ASEC Perez.
So, yun, we are talking about standards, and one of the advocacies of the Consumer Union of the Philippines is really to look into the standards by which the goods and services that we are receiving as a consumer are within the standards as being monitored by the government. But it is not all about the government who must do all of this. We must be able to participate also. That's why we are also very thankful for this morning's presence of our staff from the DTI. I just acknowledge Ma'am Maria Teresita Del Rosario, the Supervising Trade and Industry Specialist of the Standards Development Division, Bureau of Philippine Standards, and Mr. J. Fried Cabangal, the Executive Assistant from the Consumer Protection Group Division. Okay, so I think, yes, sir. So I think we have to start the discussion. I think we have a question pending.
Well, first of all, makasama, hindi tayo nang sa earthquake, no? There are other things that can affect the building, no? And we are speaking of typhoon, no? Bagyo, landslide, volcanic eruption, yan nangyari sa mga volcano, lumipat na volcano, no? Saka yung sunog, no? Sunog, fire, no? So we're not just concerned about the earthquake, we're also concerned about other calamities, natural calamities that can compromise the building that you're staying in. We're speaking only of medium and high rise, no? Kasi yung mga bahay na, kasi bungalow, o yung mga nipa hut, o yung mga two-story, medyo hindi siya ma-affected ng earthquake. Ang mahalaga is yung tall building. At alam ko na marami mga Pilipino ngayon, especially mga pamilya ng mga OFW, na nakatira sa mga condominium units, no? Anong taas ng condominium units? Mga 30 stories, 40 stories, no? So dyan na tayo na-concern. And of course, Tony, as we all agree, who are the people who should be concerned about this? Hindi lang consumer, no? Ito yung mga, of course, yung mga may-ari ng mga condominium units, no? Yung mga tenants ng commercial buildings, no? Especially sa opisina, let's say sa BGC, Ayala Center, sa Eastwood, no? Yung mga contractors na gumagawa ng mga struktura natin, yung mga architects, no? Of course, yung LGU na nag-i-issue ng mga building permits. And of course, the government agencies like the DTI, who is in charge of ensuring that the code or the safety procedures are followed. And of course, yung mga bangko. No? Kasi, siyempre, kung bibili ka ng bahay or bibili ka ng condominium unit, hindi mo kaya cash, tulugan. No? So even the bank should be concerned. Kasi kung yung masira yung building, malaki ang kanila. Of course, the insurance. No? Yeah, even the insurance company should be very concerned.
Yes. In fact, sir, we are one of the concerns also probably they would look into is considering that it is a calamity and it is an act of God. May mananagot pa dito? Baka wala din mananagot kasi it is an act of God. So these are questions not necessarily on the liabilities, but how can we prevent and protect the consumers, the consuming public, and with the right information, with the right choice, probably we can choose which condominium unit should we buy or can we consider or something like that. But we are not advertising.
Hindi commercial to, ha?
Hindi commercial. Okay, by the way, ang concern ng every consumer, kasi halimbawa, yung mga OFW natin, they have investments or savings na para dun sa condominium units, for example, na hinuhulugan nila.
Yes,
so these are the concerns of the people.
Okay, ngayon, of course, the reason why we're having this consumer desk because importante ang role ng media, no? So we want to acknowledge the presence of our friends in media. And there's one person that I like to acknowledge, ladies and gentlemen, I would say the columnist par excellence, no? One of the country's most credible believable, honest, no fake news, opinion leaders of our country is Bel Punana. Hi Bel, thank you for joining us. Okay. So, what we'll do now is, 2 minutes, let's have an open forum now, for you to ask questions. Please, yung mga members ng CUP, kung may mga concerns kayo, bring it up. And also, our friends from the government, if there's some issues you want to bring up or some items you want to advise us, please speak out. By the way, hindi to call na sisihan, okay? We're not here to attack anyone or to blame anybody. We just want to play safe. So the more knowledge we have, the more information we have, then the better chances of us getting safe. So may I start the ball running? Sino may want to ask questions?
Siguro sir, kasi kanina na-mention ng dalawang engineers natin about some structures, about their concerns, no? Siguro we will listen to them because as mentioned kanina sa video, they have raised this concern, especially on the safety of the people, most especially sa mga high-rise buildings or government or private buildings. This year we're talking not only of government or private buildings, lahat ng mga building na gumagamit ng semento at bakal. So maybe we can start with Engineer Morales.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, fellow consumers, members of the media, as well as the government. The Association of Structural Engineers wish to bring to your attention a very critical topic, and this is underscored principally by the presence of our President in the person of Engineer Danilo Domingo, because we as designers and structural engineers wish to bring this to the attention of the consuming public as well as the government. Like I said earlier in my introduction, we are seeing some light at the tunnel because BPS and DTI are now actually actively participating in several dialogues and even attending the deliberations in the technical committee. But in reality, this is a very long, festering problem. Okay? And why is it festering? Why is it festering? Because actually there are vested interests involved, and although we would not want to point accusing fingers, there are vested interests involved who are not really concerned with public safety. And this is why we are now bringing it down to the level of the consumer in order to also ask some help from you, because after all, we're all in this together when the big one comes, according to Asik Perez. No? So let me now walk you through. What I have done is I have gone down by making this a very, very simple or even oversimplified presentation so as not to be too technical. But in the process, I would like to call attention to what can happen, okay, with the use of a certain specific rebar, the quenched tempered or the thermomechanically treated rebars. We will walk you through this, so if at any time you would like to interrupt by asking a question, just please raise your hand so you could be recognized and I would gladly answer them, okay? So, why the title Clear and Present Danger? Okay? The problem and the danger is very clear to us, particularly to engineers, but probably perhaps not to the consumer or the consuming public. Present because up to now there is proliferation of this type of rebars. We are doing our best by the Association of Structural Engineers by actually including in the code qualified statements or qualification statements governing the use of this type of rebar. And also, very, very slowly, we're also asking the TC11 committee, which is the Committee on Long or Rebar Products, to also incorporate in their manufacturing process clear indication of what quenched tempered or thermomechanically treated rebars are, not just by painting, okay? Because painting can be actually obliterated and you can substitute any color you want, no? Say for example, with the color coding scheme, you can actually change the ending number, so you can subvert or actually defeat the color coding scheme. So that is the reason for the title. It is a real and clear and present danger. And like I said, the danger has been festering for a long time now, almost about 10 to 12 years. Okay? Even in our association, it took us 3 years to include this in the new edition of the code. But we have not been sleeping because we realized the danger involved. We've been conducting dialogues with the various agencies of the government, as well as the Philippine Institute of Steel Industrial, or rather, it's actually an aggregation of steel millers, no? PISI, yes. Thank you. So why are we here? Wrong spelling. Why are we here taking this problem to the attention of the consumer? Because ultimately, you're on the receiving end. Okay? Because if something happens to the building you're occupying, then you have a problem, not only us. Although our liability extends up to 15 years based on the civil engineering law. Say for example, if your building collapses and you invest hard-earned money to buy that, whether you're injured or whether you lose your investment, still you suffer. So this is what we would like to bring to your attention now. Okay, first let's come very quickly to the definition. Quenched tempered rebars, the QT or TFT rebars, is manufactured by rapid cooling. In other words, when the rebar comes out of the rolling mill, it is red hot and then it's sprayed by water, a fine mist of water momentarily. So what happens is the outer skin cools down. Okay, and through some magic of metallography, or metallurgy rather, the outer skin now becomes a very strong and hardened surface. Okay, but the inner core, of which the majority is just ordinary steel, remains ordinary steel. So now you have a two-layered process which apparently has very strong strength or relatively high strength when you test in the laboratory. This is where the problem is. The unscrupulous millers, okay, not all, the scrupulous millers are actually trying to say that since they pass laboratory testing, since they are strong, then definitely they could be an equivalent substitute to the safe rebars that we were using before. Not so. Really not so. Because imagine, this is a two-layered material now. When you remove the outer skin or the outer material, and that is pretty common in the construction practice, no? You have to actually remove some of the, or all of the layered material when you do threading to join one rebar after another by coupling. So you thread it, you use a coupler, and then you do that. In the process of threading, you actually remove the higher strength material, so what remains is the lower strength material. Okay? And therefore, you now degenerate into a lower strength. That's number one. Number two, when you do welding on this type of rebars, you injure the outer skin. And once there is an injury in the outer skin, it's like a wound, okay? And that's where the failure propagates, okay? Also, if you try to bend it, okay, and you can only bend large diameter rebars by heating it to red hot material, then the tempering process is lost. Meaning to say it reverts back to the lower strength rebars, okay? And also, if you galvanize the rebar, not pretty common here, no? But if you galvanize the rebar, the galvanizing temperature is about 470 degrees. So, it is way above the tempering temperature of the rebars, and therefore, the rebar reverts now to the smaller or lower strength rebar. So these things that I have mentioned, okay, that negate the advanced composite strength of the quenched tempered or thermomechanically treated rebars are really affected just by the construction process itself. Okay? They are wiped out. I mean, the advantage of the quenched tempered rebar is totally wiped out because you lose the outer skin. But that's only the tip of the iceberg. Okay? When this now rebar is incorporated, as God has said, into reinforced concrete, okay? Even if they are, assuming they are not damaged by threading, by threading, by welding, by bending, which is impossible, but anyway, assuming that we still have an undamaged rebar, in an earthquake zone such as the Philippines, when this is subjected to cyclic loading, okay, in an earthquake, reversible cyclic loading. There have been tests even in Europe, particularly in Italy, in the University of Padova, which use full-scale mock-ups of reinforced concrete columns subjected to cyclic loading, reinforced with ordinary rebars, the mild steel rebars, and the quenched tempered rebars. And what happens? Under cyclical loading, the hysteresis process, the curve is sort of like that, no? The quenched tempered rebar actually just had survived one cycle. When the others, the mild steel rebars actually can survive at least 5 or 6 cycles. So what does this tell us? You can have premature failure of your reinforced concrete structure if you use quenched tempered rebars. Okay? But the problem that we have been confronted with, like I said, we are also conducting education with our practitioners, fellow practitioners and peers, no? Is this product crept into the market without the engineering profession being informed. That's number one. It crept into the market, okay, as a substitute to the microalloy rebars without the general public being informed. Okay? But let me see the commercial motivation involved. No? Before, the microalloy rebars, according to the millers themselves, no, they are very costly to manufacture because it needs an alloying element, vanadium, which is imported from Russia. And Russia is sort of manipulating the market. Okay? Granted. Quenched tempered rebars, on the other hand, do not use this microalloying process. You don't have to import anything. You only use water and spray it on the red hot metal. Well and good. So the production cost would be smaller, okay? But what is the penalty to the consumer and to the structural engineer who unknowingly uses the product? You cannot really guarantee the safety and what would happen to your building, okay? Okay. Microalloy steel bars, on the other hand, is what we used to know, or what you used to know. Because almost probably I would speculate that 85% of the market is now dominated by quenched tempered rebars. Okay? Microalloy rebars are the ones that are strengthened by the alloying element vanadium or sometimes niobium, okay, in order to give it strength. But the cross section, okay, the cross section is consistent or uniform. There is no layered material that could be lost in the construction process. Okay, so much for definitions. Okay, let me try now to demonstrate by an animation what happens. You know, if the metal, an ordinary material, rebar, is heated to red hot, okay, material, it now becomes a two-layered material with a thin outer skin that is stronger than the inner core. So when you test this in the laboratory, okay, it will give you the right strength, or sometimes even higher. But actually, based on tests by the MIRDC, which the Steel Industry Commission, they also fail in terms of elongation and in terms of the TSY-station. But I do not want to be too technical about it. So now, what we are seeing here is a two-layered till, okay? And this is being passed on as an ordinary rebar that can meet all the requirements under loading in high-rise or even medium-rise structures and critical lifeline structures, okay? So the inner core tempers the outer layer also because it has residual heat. So it cooks up the outer layer also, which has been suddenly pre-cooled. This pre-cooling actually changes the crystallography of the material, the outer material, changes its metallurgy, and it gives you a very strong material, the outer skin, I mean. But leaving the inner core still of the same base material. Okay, so we've gone through that. The steel dealers or the producers are trying to say that since they meet the laboratory test requirements, okay, that there is no problem with the substitution that is happening now. And it has been happening for more than 10 or 12 years. But we have had dialogues with them, but still, we're actually barking on deaf ears. So, but in the meantime, there is propagation of the steel rebars, and you must have seen the dramatic growth of the high-rises in every part of the country, not only in Manila, Metro Manila, but also in the provinces, no? Iloilo, Cebu, etc. And the whole Philippines, with the exception of Palawan, is subject to the Zone 4 of the most this destructive earthquake that we can expect. Okay? It is misleading in that sense because, like I said, if the quenched tempered or thermomechanically treated rebars are affected by construction procedures like threading, welding, heating, galvanizing, then you suddenly lose the composite strength. And you revert to the inner core strength, which is just a fraction of the overall strength. No? Okay? So, also, like I said, during actual earthquake conditions, the quenched tempered rebar can prematurely fail. Okay? Ahead of an ordinary rebar. In other words, if you have this side by side, under cyclic loading, this one would give way earlier compared to this. And that's where the danger lies. Okay? These are only just several international publications that we have gathered. No? They say if you rebend, if you weld, or you thread, or the ordinary microalloy rebar, then they're okay. Okay? For quenched tempered rebars, it says not possible without losing the strength. In other words, you degrade to the lower strength of the core. Okay? Also, not possible without losing strength. Then, loss of strength disproportionate to the loss of the core section. Because if you just remove the thin outer core, the thin outer core actually gives it probably perhaps 40% of the overall strength. So if you remove the outer core, okay, you just have a residual strength of 60%, which will not satisfy loading demands. And this is from publication in the internet. No? Okay. Okay. Let me try to illustrate what I meant. You know, the bottom of the iceberg, which is under surface loading, you have a problem, okay, because the quenched tempered rebar actually would not perform or behave properly under cyclical loading. Okay. Okay. Various studies and research in Italy, New Zealand, and elsewhere have pointed to the dangers posed by these rebars. As a matter of fact, we have excerpted some of the qualifications on the use of this kind of rebars. Incidentally, we are actually trying to communicate with Japan, okay, with our colleagues in Japan and also in Taiwan, Because what we have heard is that totally quenched tempered bars are not being used in Japan for the same reasons that we have enumerated. And also in Taiwan, they have actually banned it after the Chichi earthquake. Okay? We have yet to get an answer. Okay? So this presentation is aimed at alerting the engineering community, the government authorities, and the consumers to be uninformed use of quenched tempered rebars in order to reduce the dangers. Please, I would like to emphasize, we are not advocating the total ban of these quenched tempered bars. We are just qualifying its use. But particularly and specifically, we say that if there is this construction operations that will affect the overall strength, then we okay. So microalloy rebars, when subjected to loading, would behave under cyclical loading without premature failure. Okay. Now let's go to what a similar microalloy rebars, okay, rather quenched tempered rebars behave. No? There will be a break, okay, because the outer skin is brittle, so it will give up or it will give way immediately. And once that happens, the concrete is no longer a reinforced concrete. It loses its bond with the concrete, and therefore it is now only the concrete that is left carrying the load, and therefore there is a big problem because we say, okay, concrete is very strong in compression, but it's also weak in tension, and that's the reason why we are putting reinforcement inside the concrete. Okay, but once you lose the concrete, the rebar, then it degenerates into an ordinary concrete, and therefore you would have an earlier or premature failure when compared to the microalloy rebars. Anyway, I'm about to end, but let me try to emphasize the theory behind the structural design of buildings under earthquakes. The structural engineering profession is not required to guarantee that the building will not fail. But it is mandatory that the structural engineer will assure that the failure would not be premature, it will not be sudden, it must allow for the evacuation of the occupants. So that's a very significant condition, and therefore how do we achieve this? We can only achieve this if the steel is still acting, because concrete fails explosively. Okay? Excuse me. It fails suddenly. And the reinforcing rebars now take up the stresses and therefore augments the concrete. Without the steel, then we lose the reinforced concrete structure. Okay? Why have microalloy rebars disappeared? Why have they disappeared in the market? Simple business. Because it's cheaper it's costlier to produce, and quenched tempered rebars are more economical. But the big question is, we have not really detected any reduction in price, at least as a consuelo de bobo, no? We have not detected any reduction in price when there was suddenly this quenched tempered rebars displacing totally the microalloy rebars. So, big profits are being raked in, no? By who knows who. Okay? Okay? Associated problems with the use of quenched tempered rebars. I've explained this, so we'll just breeze through so we can have more time for the interaction and question and answer. Welding, even tack weld, simple act of introducing a welding on this rebar, say for example to attach a grounding wire, can damage the outer skin, and that will now be the start of the failure. No? Heating, Ready? Okay, just to call attention, this was a test commissioned by the Philippine Iron and Steel Institute, now I get the name. Iron and Steel Institute, which is the group representing the manufacturers. But what is notable here is that these characteristics, you see, are what happened. Normally, under the PNS 49 standard, elongation should be at least 8%. But what is happening is that even with the numerous rebars, they're getting 4%, 2%, 4%. Okay? Very seldom exceeding that. So it's a variable performance. And then also the TSYS ratio, which is the ratio of the tensile strength over the yield strength to technical. The minimum requirement, you should meet 1.25 times. Okay? And look at this, they're barely approaching 1.25, although this one and this one. Okay, so it's a random and variable product, even in that sense, no? But what is the importance of the TSYS ratio? The larger the TSYS ratio, the longer time afforded to the building occupants to evacuate, because actually before ultimate failure occurs, you have this plateau, okay, which would now signal evacuation and the safety of the buildings. Okay? So let me try to. This is now actually a graphic presentation of what a QTTMT rebar is. The inner core, which is of lower strength, and then the outer skin. Okay, so it's a layered material. Okay. Now the microalloy rebar. Okay, when you remove the skin, you by threading or by welding, okay, you now revert to the inner core, which is smaller and what you call this, not stronger as the composite material. Okay? The microalloy rebar, on the other hand, okay, you have this the lugs and the deformations, but still it maintains its cross-sectional strength. If you thread it, okay, you reduce the strength, but the remaining core material is as strong as the original material. This is where the big difference lies, no? So you have a significant reduction when you affect the quenched tempered rebar with construction processes, no? Okay? We've gone through this, sorry. Okay, studies in several parts of the world, including Australia and New Zealand, no? I have said that I've pointed out to the dangers associated with the use of QTTMT for rebar. So we are not only one in this, no? New Zealand, Australia, Italy, they have already recognized the dangers. Okay? These do not include the instability of same bars. Okay? An Italian study, by a scholar, also referred to the cyclic failure, premature cyclic failure. Okay, and we quote the New Zealand standard on concrete structures. AS 3000, Australian standards 3600, requires designers to assume that the strength of such reinforcement has a design strength of 250 MPa when raised with temperature. Okay, such safety requirements considered inappropriate in seismically active country where concentration of building at a well position would be undesirable. In other words, what they're saying is simply is, if you have a composite bar and you damage it by welding, then you degrade to a very low quality rebar. So what can be done? We are here, the association is presenting this problem to the consumer public, to the government, that we really need to do something about it. And what do we propose to do? Already, as I have said, in the Association of Structural Engineers of the Philippines, when we published our National Structural Code for Buildings 2015, we already were able to incorporate qualifications on the use of quenched tempered and thermomechanical treated rebars, as I have outlined in this presentation. Again, we have not advocated for the total abolition of quenched tempered bars because they can be used for minor structures that do not endanger public safety. Okay, but more than that, with the government, we have us and TC11 finally agreed to permanent marking of the rebar by embossing the letter Q. Previously and up to now, there is no way to detect whether it is a quenched tempered bar or not, except for the painting. And believe it or not, the painting that was assigned to quenched tempered rebars is silver. But the bare metal is also almost silver-like. So there is a tendency to mistake or misplace or fraudulently exchange one to the other. So this is what we would like to avoid in the field. Okay? So we are also informing the consuming public, and the government is working with us hand in hand. So we would like to also introduce this qualification in the PNS 49 standard. Why do we want that? Or why are we recommending that to the government? It is because the National Structural Code, which carries these qualifications, actually is the reference standard of the National Building Code. But at the same time, the PNS 49 governs the specification for rebars. We want the qualifications also introduced in the PNS so that these two documents would be mutually in agreement, because the National Structural Code is just led by engineers or architects and government, maybe. But the PNS 49 standard is used by consumers, sellers, buyers of steel products. And that's why we would like these two requirements or standards to be mutually in agreement. I guess we'll have to stop here, and thank you very much for the time afforded us and the Association of Structural Leaders to bring this problem to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Morales. Thank you very much. Can we get a reaction from
As the government agency is really tasked to revise the PNS, no? By the way, before I do that, let me thank Emil for inviting us and for giving that very extensive but very informative presentation. But as I said, as the government agency principally tasked to address the issues raised by Emil, let me just ask some questions that might help us in the process. You referred to an MIRDC test result that was done in 1999, right?
That's correct.
And there were findings on the ratios that would have caused some signs of alarm.
Yes.
Alarm. We're proud about it. And that was done in 1999, and it's already 2017. Okay. 2018, so many years have passed. That's my number one. My question is, why? Of course, you may have already answered for that. Number two is that you said that you are not advocating a total ban of quenched tempered rebar, but you said that by subjecting that quenched tempered rebar to heating, simple welding, or even simple touching, which is normally done in construction, that would in effect say affect the strength of the rebar. So what in particular are you advocating for the proper revision of our PNS 49? That's my number two question. And number three, of course, we have to undergo process. Now, you cited studies in New Zealand, possibly Japan or Taiwan, but are you not suggesting that a particular study be done in the Philippines? Like we have our MIRDC here, where you said that subjecting a rebar to heating and then maybe a process and then test it here, will that not have an immediate result, or that would facilitate the immediate revision, if necessary, of PNS 49?
Thank you very much, Seth Perez, and that. Your first question, why only now? It's a real long-winded story because, first of all, the main reason primarily, we were literally caught with our pants down. I'm referring to the Association of Structural Engineers, because the quenched tempered rebars just crept into the market, not even crept. It was suddenly introduced without any notification or warning. And when we got wind of this, that was about 8 years ago, we already invited the PISI, the BRS, the Bureau of Research Standards, and also the ASEP and the PIC for a dialogue, because we are alerting them on the danger of this. But as you probably understand, it is the PNS 49 is a consensus standard. We are trying our best, but we are only a small voice, say, crying out in the desert, because a lot of the representation is from the steel millers. But like I said, we are now actually getting some impetus from the participation of the EPS, specifically as a Reyes group. We have gotten the PNS 49, PNS TC11, and we revising the PNS 49 to now introduce permanent marking on quenched tempered rebars. So that is a small victory, but that's only a small part of the story. What we are really trying to advocate is that there should be this same qualification that is included in the National Structural Code to be also incorporated in the PNS 49 requirements, in order to inform the consumer, who are the major users of PNS 49, the sellers, the buyers, etc. Because like I said, this group of people would seldom refer to the National Structural Code, because it's so very technical manual. William, can you please raise the code? How thick it is? Sorry. So you have one. It's as thick as this one. Okay, so it's more than the directory, although there's no more directory now. Yeah. Anyway, so that is in answer to the second question. The third question is this. Can some testing be done? Actually, the MIRDC research, actually this was a research, not just, thank you. Okay. I was asked to explain what PNS 49 is. PNS 49 is the governing standard of the government, of the Bureau of Philippine Standards, governing long products. And what are long products? These are the steel rebars. Okay, originally plates were also included there. So it now describes what the performance requirements of the rebars are concerned. And up to this time, it is silent on whether it's a microalloy rebar or a quenched tempered rebar, which is a very critical missing information. No? Because without informing the public of the dangers and the qualifications, then it could be taken as an ordinary rebar. So what? Nothing like that. Anyway, on the third question, can testing be done? Actually, the MIRDC research was an investigation already of the test. And the only reason why I came across this research was because I wrote to the MIRDC, and unfortunately the researcher, Dr. Podolek, was kind enough to give me a copy. But in reality, what they were saying during our dialogue, industry dialogue, and PASI was saying, no, it is very safe for welding. As a matter of fact, we commissioned MIRDC, okay? And it says that welding can be done, okay? So when I got a copy, okay, true enough, it can be welded, but there are two important qualifications. Yes, it can be welded, but it has to use a welding electrode that is not available in the country, which has 7 times the strength of the ordinary welding electrode there. That's number one. And number two, this electrode, if we import, will cost about 7 times. So I remember the numbers, no? 7 times the cost of an ordinary electrode, okay? But what is more important here, but not to denigrate the capabilities or not to bring down the skill of our welders, okay? We are already hard put using the ordinary standard welding electrodes. What more with this with an extra care? And the reason why they are increasing the strength to 7 times is because even if the core, rather not the core, but the skin material is lost, the weld, because it is 7 times stronger, will take up or carry the load that was lost. Yes, ma'am. So now it was actually self-indicting on the part of the PISI that they actually referred to MIRDC, because when we got a copy, what it was saying that number one, it does not fully comply with the irrigation requirements, okay, which is 8%, whereas they have 2 to about 5%, seldom 8%, and also the TSYS ratio is well below the 1.25. So it's an indictment rather than an assistance. Okay, Rod, sir.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, first of all, thank you very much, Engineer, for the explanation. Very napaka-technical, no? And I'm glad that our friend from the government's here, and I'm sure we can have more dialogue on this, no? I think ang importante dito is this. I think there's no 100% safe na building, no, na kahit magkaroon ng 8.8 hindi masisira pa rin. Ang important dyan is at least we minimize the danger, no, the risk. May I ask you, Engineer Morales, yung famous example, kasi para maintindihan naman kasama natin, yung sa Selendra, yung Selendra, may pumutok na yung dingding, lumipad ng dingding at may tinamaan ng sasakyan at namatay yung sa sasakyan. Nabataban niyo yun? Sa may BGC? Okay. Engineer, although I know that there are many factors,
before we proceed siguro to the next question, we acknowledge Representative Sherwin Tugna.
Feeling ko lahat tayo magkakaroon ng engineering degree pagkatapos nito. Sige. Kasi I'm also concerned about the time, no? I hope we can get to the point. Bel, are you able to pick up the one? Our friend from Philippine Star, are you able to pick up? As clear as mud or ano? Anyway, ang importante nito is we are trying to look at the safety factor. No? How safe are the buildings? And the safety depends on the cement, no, the concrete, and the steel, no, that's inside. Okay, can we have a little statement from our friend?
So joining us in this morning's Consumers Desk is a party list representative. We have a member of the House of Representatives, Congressman Sherwin Tugna. Sir, if you have anything to say for the viewers. And he's a brother-in-law of Senator Joel Villanueva.
Ayan, una po sa lahat I'd like to greet everyone. Good afternoon already. The first, I'd like to acknowledge also our panelists here. With me is my colleague, Congresswoman, former Governor, Congresswoman Cora Malanyaon, and our distinguished panelists here. I've learned that the Consumers Union of the Philippines is very much into it, is working about the integrity of the steel that we are using here in our country. Well, this is a spin-off or in relation also to what has just transpired in Taiwan, wherein there was an earthquake, and one of the main causes why certain buildings were destroyed is because of the integrity of the steel. So by virtue of this, we all know that it's not a remote possibility that it will also happen here in our country. So as member of Congress representing the party list Citizens Battle Against Corruption, and with me also is my colleague with our group and with our experts here, I believe that it is timely that we should look into the quality of the steel that we are using. Not only in terms of what we know as layman. Kasi bilang layman, totoo lang, pag layman ka, tinitignan mo paano yung ginagawa yung bahay. Yung nilalagyan ng alambre yung bakal. Pero syempre, kung yan ay ginagawang, ano man tawag, bungalow type o two-story house, konting crack-crack lang yan. Medyo malabo naman yung talagang dilubyo. Pero pagka yan ay matataas na building at maliliit lang yung mga bakal, hindi na check yung quality. Kumbaga, kung titignan lang ng... Depende kasi sa sing-sing din niya nung inhinyero. Kasi baka nga makapal, yung kalidad naman pala, hindi naman pala high quality. So, syempre, we're preventing. Kumbaga, siguro nga, Congresswoman Cora, baka nga ang title ng bill na to, pag dumating sa Congress, an ounce of prevention is better than cure. Opo, than a pound of cure. Ganito yata ang link, mahaba magsalita. Anyway, pag natapos po ito, antayin namin andito na pala yung draft bill. Susulat ko na rin yung pangalan ko as a co-author, and we will work in the lower house, as well as I'm sure my brother-in-law, Senator Joel Villanueva, will also be a champion of this particular bill. So, sa lahat po, kaisa niyo po kami tungkol dito dahil ang totoo lang, talaga pong puno rin ng schedule ko ngayon dahil third termer na po ako, nag-iikot po ako, pero kasi palibhasa, talaga namang itong bill na to, talaga namang kailangan mo itong puntahan na to, itong draft bill na ito sapagkat talaga namang makakatulong ito sa mga kababayan natin. This is a very good bill and it will prevent the loss of lives in the future. So, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir, and it's nice to know that we have legislators here and they can help us in the policy making, especially on this advocacy. All right, okay. Sir Rod, do you have a question?
I have several questions. Let's try to go over them quickly. Okay, then go back to the Salendra, yung incident sa Salendra. Ano ba nangyayari doon? Bakit lumipad yung dingding? Dahil sa mahina ang bakal? Parang mahina ang bakal eh. I know that there are many factors, pero bakit kaya? Maybe you can answer.
I'll be honest, ala kong I don't have a hands-on ocular inspection on that site, no. But based on the information that I get, no, what is common right now in the construction industry is that for the walls, ginagamit ng mga developers, mga contractors of what we call the prefabricated walls, no. Very seldom yung gumagamit ng hollow blocks walls. Okay, so most of the big time contractors para mabilis at prefabricated walls. And my perception is that there should be some problem on the attachment of the wall on the main structure. So sa madaling salita, the connection of the prefabricated, precasted wall to the columns and the beams is not that properly detailed. So hindi siya dapat tumiwalay. But I don't think that is more of a structural problem. Though may namatay, no? Hindi dapat ganon. But I see it more of the detailing portion. Yun.
Kasi if you look at the picture, no, kung makita nyo, lalaro pa eh. Well, if you see the picture, makita mo yung wall made of concrete, no? Lumipad, at mga bakal na dapat naka-attach doon, naka-bend. So that means, baka mahina yung bakal. I do not know.
Aside from the mahina, most likely, yung mga tinatawag namin dowel, yung mga length ng bakal, ganun siya dapat ka-critical eh. And in the construction industry, usually, the contractor must be meticulous enough that during the implementation, those minor details, pinapa-approve din sa designer yung attachment to mga walls dun sa main structural element. So dapat hindi rin siya bumitaw.
Yung high-rise condominium, no? Ito ba mga steel manufacturers in the country na nagpuproduce ng quenched bar para sa mga high-rise building condominiums? Ito ba ay kabisado ng gobyerno? I mean, are they aware of the process used and whether this is really safe or not? Asek Perez, I know you have many things in mind.
This is in relation also to your question, sir. Follow up siguro. Anong ginagawa ng government natin in this aspects of dealing with this particular issues na pinresent mo?
As we mentioned po, the Bureau of Philippine Standards prescribes the proper standard before the construction materials or particularly steel are brought into the market or for use in construction. Meaning to say that ideally steel should comply with the Philippine national standard, aligned with international standards. And so far, the one that we see in the market, the one that being used in the construction, comply with the Philippine national standards. And this one being raised by Engineer Emil is something that that suggests a revision of the Philippine national standard. But before the Philippine national standards can be revised or amended, this has to be subjected to a process. Meaning, there's got to be a technical working group. We invite various sectors of the society, from the industry to the, of course, the industry, the consumers group, the technical group, and we are right now in the process of addressing the issue raised by Emil. Of course, after that finding by the technical working group, this is further subjected to consultations. All the public, including the media, will be invited. And then as soon as this is subjected to a commenting period, at least 60 days, or sometimes even supposedly 6 months. But depending on the urgency of the matter, we can shorten the period of commenting. This is also subjected to publication in the website of BTS, and also we inform the WTO members, of which the Philippines is a member. So we cannot just immediately revise the Philippine national standard. So this is it. That's why I raised that question earlier to Emil, Engineer Emil here, because as he has already told us, he has been advocating this, and this has, of course, expectedly subject to a counter study or from the industry itself.
I understand, Asek. Well, after this is a timely discussion, no? Because we are anticipating the big one, no? And I just hope that this dialogue, these consultations will be done as soon as possible, and that there will be a meeting of the minds among the experts, no? I can see the point of the engineer on especially on the welding, no? It's really a very technical matter that requires study, no? But in the meantime, what happens to the Filipinos who own units, no, in a 20-story condominium building, no? Ano bang assurance nila? But I now take this opportunity to ask the members of media, no, because they're here. After this the reason, they are the reason for this gathering. Belle, the columnist, Ms. Belle Donana. Yes, Belle, please.
Engineer Morales, following your explanation, I think it was very good. It's very technical, but very easy to understand, even for lay people like us ourselves. Now, we have, as Congresswoman Malanyao, I think, said, buildings are sprouting all over. I go around the country and I see all of this, Cebu, Iloilo. Of course, I live just south of BGC. I live in Taguig, and Good Green. Now, my question is, given what you explained, how many of these buildings in BGC, for example, you think are compliant with the quenched steel standard engineering? It's very, and I know especially that you mentioned that all of these bars cost much more than the ordinary steel bars. So, given that, the rush, the build, and then the expensive additional cost of material, what are we to conclude, sir?
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that question. I don't know whether that's an entrapment. No, just
but
joking.
We have to raise it.
Yes. I consider that very important, but unfortunately, we will never know because, like I stated before, madam, the quenched tempered rebars crept into the market. It's not just one big bang, no more microalloy rebars. So, in the process, there were buildings not only in BGC but also in other areas which were built with microalloy rebars and with But I can only speak of what we have done. Okay, in our big project with Nestle for the coffee mate factory in Tanawan, because it has a significant tower building that's heavily loaded, we insisted on the use of microalloy rebars exclusively, and that was about 5 years ago. And you see, the big problem was no one would ever supply microalloy rebars, okay? But when we started publishing the quantity of rebars that would be required, suddenly there were 2 takers, so we were able to award it to one contractor. So what does that mean? It means that only market forces could actually dictate the supply. But also it is overridden by greed, because if you are manufacturing microalloy rebars as compared to quenched tempered rebars, the microalloy rebars would probably be more expensive, or at the very least provide a very slim margin of profit compared to the quenched tempered rebars. So, in direct answer to your question, ma'am, we can never really tell because this was a no-no. But predominantly now, to my personal knowledge, about 85% of the rebars being supplied in the local market are quenched tempered rebars. The 15% comes from importation of rebar products already, which may or may not be quenched tempered rebars, no? So nobody knows. But so there is that.
But 85%.
That is even off the blue, ma'am, no? I would say that 85% is dominated by quenched tempered rebars.
That's comforting.
15% as opposed to 85% is no comfort to me, ma'am, because really.
Better than a lower.
Of course. I'm just trying to play with words, man. But in reality, there's endangerment in our structures and also to the building occupants. Thank you very much.
Okay, in relation to that, I have a question. How about you discovered that, if you want to make sure na yung building mo ay talagang tiba, what can I do? Tapos na yung building, ano magagawa nila?
All is not lost. Actually, really very relevant because, if, say for example, this now comes to the attention of the developers, the consumers, and there is now widespread demand for clarification, it is us, the Association of Structural Engineers, that we carry the brunt of this question. Okay? Unwittingly, some of our members use quenched tempered rebars. Unwittingly, I say, without knowing it. So, nothing can be done in that regard, in the use. But Like I said, all those buildings that have been constructed with quenched tempered rebars can be remediated or retrofitted so that you can strengthen it and reduce the demands of the loading during an earthquake. In other words, if you are saying that this building will vibrate so much, you can check the period of vibration, remedy it by some strengthening from within, but it would be a laborious and costly process.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
how old is the technology of quenched tempered?
It's been offered worldwide for over 20 years now, and mostly in non-seismic areas, okay? Non-earthquake prone areas. And as a matter of fact, New Zealand, which is in the forefront of seismic research, has actually did this qualification on the use of rebars. No?
Are there countries which have banned QT?
We are not very certain, but what we have heard, and this is what I said we are trying to verify, Taiwan has totally banned the use of quenched tempered bars. But we need to verify officially. We are writing the commercial office of Taiwan, the embassy, and also we're writing Japan. But in Japan, we know, but without any official pronouncement or document, we know that quenched tempered rebars is not being used in Japan.
ASEC and Congressman, may I ask you, do you think, if necessary, do you think we can mandate the developers to reinforce the buildings? Can we ask SMDC to do the same with all the existing projects? It's just a thought, just in theory. ASEC, pwede ba yun? Can we compel the developers to reinforce all their buildings to make sure?
I have a related question that I already raised to my colleague here. It seems to me that the ball is also on the court of the structural engineers, because they're the ones ordering the quality of rebars to be used in the construction. And I understand that the requirement of using microalloy rebar is already in the building code. If it is in the building code, then it is already a requirement. So how come that some are still ordering or using quenched tempered rebars especially for high-rise construction?
Actually, what ASEC, I've said to ASEC Mespers, in the latest code of, which is the big book beside the engineering union, that is the 2015 NSCP, the National Structure of the Code of the Philippines, we already qualified the use of quenched tempered rebar. Nandun na talaga dun sa code namin. So as a designer, it must be part of your specification to use, not to use those kind of rebars, But in reality, during the implementation, it is the contractor who is on top of the situation, They're actually the one who are purchasing the enforcing body. And what you can easily see right now are the strength of the rebar. Immediate concern ng mga contractor. If it is high grade, if it's structural steel, or intermediate reinforcing bar. So actually si Seth Emilio ang proponent nito. Siya yung nag-introduce sa association namin by presenting it into local and international fora. Okay. If I may ask, very briefly, when the structural engineers order the steel bars, they do not actually say quenched tempered rebar or microalloy rebar before. But now, as what Engineer Domingo has stated, our fellow engineers can no longer forgo that topic or specification because it's already in our code book that they have to qualify. If they knowingly use it, then they may have a reason and they may have provided for the associated problems. So, like I said, we're not totally banning quenched tempered rebars. No? Okay.
Well, I want to refer to the question of Sir Rod in relation to enforcement, or you would want to require to enforce. Well, I think from a point of view of legislation, since we will be there will be a possible crafting of a law in relation to this. But for me, right now, in relation to the delegated power to BTI, as well as to the power of police power of cities in relation to this, because each and every city, meron naman silang, before you construct a building, meron silang mga requirements may building permit. So kasama na po yan. Right now, it is up to the cities already. Cities, actually, even from the point of view of a local, from a department agency, DTI, nandyan na ho yung batas Nandyan na yung requirement. Kailangan lang talaga ng enforcement. Kasi, syempre, ang naglalaban dyan, siguro minsan nagkakatipiran yung mga gumagawa. Syempre, kaya naman nag-i-exist yung mga entities, yung mga developers, primarily for profit. So, kung kaya na medyo katitig ng konti, pero syempre, as part of police power yung state, it should make sure that hindi ma-compromise yung safety ng nakatira dun sa building, the building itself.
I think Congressman Cora, being a former governor and now House of Representatives member, maybe she has something to say.
So, actually, natakot tuloy ako kasi I used to be a developer. So, but then we were building small houses. So, I think I was asking them, after all, you're not really banning the QT, no? So, but you are confining the usage to just small or minor structures like bungalow houses or two-story buildings. So, I share the view of my colleague here that I think the laws are there already. As a matter of fact, the requirement is already incorporated in the structure code as well as in the building code. So, I think it's a matter of enforcement talaga. So, enforcement lang that itong QT shall only be limited to this kind of structures, to light structures, and it can never be used for mga high-rise or mga heavy structures. So palagay ko, it's not the law actually. It's still the enforcement.
There is a question. Why not ban it? Or is there a need to ban the use of that, sir?
Yeah, that's right. It's for the expert to answer.
Actually, we stated that we have not advocated for the ban. It's just the qualified use. Because I recall that when we were discussing this heatedly in the technical committee, I said that, half guessing, I said, where will you use your the quenched tempered rebars? Where will you use our product? Well, there are still fences to build, piggeries to build, hen houses to build, and immediately, that was in jest, no? I was meaning that minor structures could still be used without endangerment, but in reality, we are not banning this because it's still useful in some respects where these items will not be brought to bear, no? I mean, for high-rise buildings or critical structures like that. Because after all, this is a free-enterprise country. People can still produce what they want and people can buy what they want. But what we would like to do is have a more knowledgeable use or qualified use of the rebars. Thank you.
I think in line with that, I think the role of the manufacturers and the distributors of these steel products should also be involved. No? I think there should be a certain law aspect where a steel manufacturer should make sure that he will not sell if it's going to be a construction for a multi-story building, no? Or a high-rise building. But kumagay dapat meron din silang fan restriction. Like for example, you don't just sell firearms to anybody, right? Kailangan qualified yung tao, no? So,
there is a question. Yes, we have a question.
Sir, pwede ba tayo mag-compromise since they are called long bars, i-shorten? I-shorten para hindi magamit sa malalaking building.
In reality, if you shorten the rebars, all the more that the problem gets magnified because you just couple it so that you make long bars. Pag didikit-dikit, pag dudugtong-dugtugin mo lang, kaya i-welding mo, so mas maraming vulnerable points.
Kaya po, para po hindi gamitin since nasa lona na gagamitin, para hindi na talaga putulin, hindi na siya makawagin long bar. Kasi nailulusot kayo na rin nagsabing na ilulusot pa rin eh.
Yes, that is correct, no? Pero possible, but alam din naman maraming gimmick dito sa construction industry, no?
We have somebody from Philippine Star.
So, yan po yung price po na QP reverse and microalloy. Same po.
I would say yes from my personal knowledge, no? Hindi naman nagbago. Relatively, hindi naman nila binaba yung presyo ng pag-stand 50 bars. But since nga, hindi na...
But since actually micro-alloy rebars are disappearing in the market scene, you have no real basis for comparison now on the pricing, no? But before, during its inception, they have not reduced. Sana man lang sinabi nila na, mas mababa ang manufacturing cost namin, so ibibigay namin yung discount to the public. Unlike say even yung mga petroleum industry, na pag bumaba yung crude prices, nagbibigay sila ng discount. No such thing in the steel industry. Yeah, thank you.
May mga questions pa po ba? Yes, there is a question.
Hi, gentlemen. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Alan po, OPTV4. My question is that what recommendation would you give to the government since we are really pushing for the build programs?
Okay, whom are you directing to?
Sige, sir.
Because you mentioned about your advocacies in the association mismo, and since you are in charge with structures and in fact coordinating or working with the contractors dito, ano po ba yung maibibigay niyong suggestion for purposes of the enforcement of all these standards that you are mentioning?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually, that's why we are working actively with the TC11 of the Bureau of Philippine Standards. We are recommending rather that the qualifications and the use which is contained in our national structural code for buildings will also be included as part of the PNS standard. And we are getting heavy flack from the other members of the TC11 committee or the manufacturers for reasons I do not know. I mean, the fact is, it does not really ban the product, but it just makes the public aware of what they should be buying or what they should be using. That's all, plain and simple. But even that is, like I said, generating heavy flack. What we only had as a consensus was the permanent marking of the rebar, the quenched tempered rebar with the letter Q, okay, to stand for quenched. But other than that, we maintain that the National Structural Code of the Philippines and the PNS 49 standard should be mutually in agreement because they cater to different market sectors. Okay, thank you.
And on the part of the Consumers Union of the Philippines, we are conducting this information campaign also, at the same time consultation with the government agency involved, means with the BTI is here, for us to be working together for purposes of checking on the standards or whether or not the standards are properly enforced. Because on the part of the consumers, we can see the interplay of all the rights of the consumers that may be involved in these issues being raised by the structural engineers of the Philippines. We can see the primordial rights of the consumers here, the right to safety, the right to information, of course the right to choose which proper building or condominium unit should be purchased, the right to consumer education and healthy environment that we are helping the consumers understand. And of course, we also want our consumer to be responsible enough to look into their welfare. We want to have critical awareness, social responsibility, and of course, our solidarity in all these aspects. And we are thankful with the presence of our legislators here, because we know that on the policy level, they can help on this, and we can link the government and the policymakers in hearing the side of the consumers on these aspects. And I was looking at the liabilities of the contractors, the engineers, and others in relation to the existing laws that we have. And makikita natin na masyadong mababa. If you use the building code of the Philippines, it's 20,000 pesos, pero yung investment mo is how much? It's millions of pesos. So makikita natin dito how this will greatly affect the consumers. And I think with the presence of the DTI, we can remind them that we can be stronger enough in implementing the standards, especially when we talk about the bars or steel bars or quenched bars that we are talking about here. Yes, sir, from the DTI.
So for the liable issue, because manufacturers are also liable of the cases that they've been making profits over the 10 to 15 years. But what about the manufacturer itself? By selling this product without letting anybody know, they're also held liable for this. What are the things that we can do to check with the manufacturers that they're even selling this product without telling people the danger that is there? Because the largest consumer of the steel are also the government, because they're building bridges and MRTs and all the structures. So I think the government should really look at this, and also the manufacturer itself.
Okay, thank you. On the level of the government, probably we can answer that.
First, let me caution the people that the steel products are in the market. They're compliant with the Philippine national standards. And what Emilio Morales is advocating is still being the process of discussion. Meaning to say, we cannot impose yet a ban on these rebars because they are compliant with PNS 49, meaning the Philippine National Standards 49, can also align with our international standards. As Emilio Morales said, these rebars are available not only in the Philippines but also worldwide. So this is not a totally, still a subject to a total ban, because this has already been, also these products are also subjected to tests. Now, the Philippine standards imposed that before a product, especially particularly steel, is allowed for distribution in the market. First, if it is manufactured, it must have that Philippine standard safety mark, meaning that will assure people that is subjected to the proper testing requirement or tensile strength test. And if this is also imported, it is required that this must also bear the import commodity clearance, which we now call the statement of conformity requirement, which is also must require that this steel product complies with the standard. Now, until the technical working group, TC11, makes that recommendation, we cannot yet say that this has to be banned from the market.
That is a very correct statement by Asset Perez. In reality, like I said before, when you test a quenched tempered rebar in the laboratory, under standard conditions, it will meet the standards, except that in the MIRDC study, some of them do not. So, the objective now of ASEP in bringing this to your level is to plug a loophole. The loophole is, it is not only the laboratory testing that should be met, but rather you have to qualify its use in the building project. And this is why some vested interests in the committee are really vehemently objecting to the introduction of this, because that really will plug the loophole that quenched tempered rebars can be used anywhere or everywhere. Okay? Because with the qualification, you now totally eliminate uses where these problems occur. No? So, that's all.
Another question from the Philippine Star.
For Engineer Morales. Sir, yung sa ano kumari, yung Skyway, ano ba yung ginamit na steel bars? Ano mo ba?
Honestly, no, because I am not the engineer of record there, and perhaps even the engineer of record would not be knowing what he was really using, because if you just specify grade 60 rebars, AQT rebar can also be grade 60, okay, and the size is there. So when you subject it to test, it may pass in general, but it does not discriminate or does not identify whether it's quenched tempered. It's difficult to detect a quenched tempered rebar under ordinary laboratory testing. No? It is when it is subjected to live cyclic loading in a structure that you will know whether it fails prematurely or not.
For asset, sir, so reasonable assumption na yung mga big infrastructure projects, medyo nagamitan niya ng QT papers. Reasonable assumption na nagamit yung mga QT rebars for yung mga bridge and yung ano ng mga major infrastructure projects ng government. Kasi walang ano eh. Sabi niya ni Engineer Morales, walang qualification. For assets, sir, diba? Sa collegial body.
I think the asset should be in the proper position to answer it, because as Engineer Morales said, as the structural engineer or even the contractor can demand that the steel bars to be used in construction will be microalloy rebar. So parang mayroon lang solusyon eh. So sabi ko nga kanina, dapat kung gusto natin immediate solution to the problem or to the concern, sa atin ng mga structural engineers na i-require nila sa construction yung
ulitin ko lang kanina, I have to emphasize no, sa recent code, no, it was written, no, that there should be qualified rule of quenched tempered rebar. Yung problema nga lang, no, yung control ng availability ng bakal. Because right now, what can easily be noticeable, yung madaling visible na makikita or madaling ipatest sa laboratory are the strength ng bakal. Which is usually, no, it is also the code that dapat pagka main bar high grade, which is 60 KSI or 420 megapascal, no? For the ties, yung mga kabilya ng poste, dapat at least intermediate rebar, which is 276 megapascal or that is 40 KSI. So, kapag ka na-control sa market, like that what Engineer Morales is saying, dapat mayroong proper marking kung quenched tempered may Q, madali yung site control. Na, hindi po pwede yan na pang main bar dahil may Q siya. So, right now, we are in that direction. No? We are working with PC11 with the BPS to do it. No? But in reality, we have every sectors are properly represented, and of course, no,
we cannot get a very, what we call this, hindi ganun kadaling makumbinsi yung manufacturing sector. Okay, last time I attended and there were deliberation argument in that process. So ongoing actually process just to make sure that in the market properly mark yung mga quenched tempered reinforcing bar. Okay. So nasa proseso naman tayo sa ngayon with the government group ng BPS.
Okay, thank you very much. And it is good to know that they are doing these processes to ensure that the standards are complied with, and of course we always look into the safety of the people. One last question probably from the media. Is there any more question or clarification? Okay.
Maybe we can just have a parting statement.
Yes, sir. Okay, sisulan na yung question. We will have the parting statement siguro. Engineer Morales.
Thank you, Attorney. I will just repeat the title of my presentation. There is a clear and present danger which the consumer must know, and we must do something about it. Otherwise, we'll be sorry later on when the big one comes. Thank you very much.
Okay, I would like to thank the consumers union, particularly Senator Cossetti, for inviting me here. So now I'm educated, though there are a lot of technical terms that I'm not really familiar with. But I say, si Engineer Morales is really an expert, no? So, talagang galing-galing.
I'm floating in the air now.
So I'm happy to be a part of this advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Cora. Sir Engineer.
Siguro, I'd like to also to supplement I'd like to share my appreciation to Engineer Morales with regards to this. Sa association namin, I'm the president, but siya talaga yung advocacy ng quenched tempered, qualified as quenched tempered bar. He prepared so many technical papers, domestic and abroad, for this. And he's the main reason why we included that in the code. Okay? So, yung not that I'm that young, pero idol ko si Sir Emil, no? Barkada ko yung anak niya. Loading idol. So, as if we always be here.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. And of course, we have Asset Perez.
Part of our mandate in the Department of Trade and Industry, particularly the Bureau of Philippine Standards, is we empower consumers to therefore be listened to the concerns or issues raised by the consumers. And this, we started listening to Engineer Morales when we had our meeting about a month ago. And in fact, we are addressing this in the Technical Committee 11 meeting. So I have already described the process. We have to undergo the process because this is part of the process. But we can assure people that our mandate is to ensure that the products being used, particularly the construction material, steel, cement, comply with the Philippine national standards, which is aligned with international standards, meaning that this has been subjected to test. So, again, let me repeat that these concerns or issues raised by the engineer are being properly addressed. Maraming salamat po for giving us this question.
Thank you very much, sir. And partner Rod, do you have any statements?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to moderate this forum. I just want to stress that we are all consumers, as you said, Tony, and we should all be concerned. I take a cue from the statement of Engineer Morales. You address it present danger, no? And while we have faith in the good Lord, we must also take precautions. And if I may use the statement from GA7, I'm ready. Okay.
Thank you very much, Sir Rod. Thank you very much for helping us today. And on the part of the Consumers Union of the Philippines, we are very grateful for your presence this morning and to our guests here who share their time. And we made this awareness campaign and made this dialogue that we are doing with the government and with the different sectors. We will be able to raise the consciousness of the consumer to have an informed choice, a better choice, and thank you very much to all of you. So, till next Consumer's Desk. Thank you very much.